Now more on the uproar amongst locals in a Cumbrian town over plans to use homes for asylum seekers. Millom was set to convert 8 homes into houses of multiple occupancy for around 40 migrants. Both the council as well as local residents have opposed the plans. Earlier this week, one of the terraced houses in question was spray painted with the message, "Not welcome scum," provoking a stronger police presence in the area. I'm joined now by Councillor Simone Faulkner, who is the Mayor of Millom. Simone, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Now, let's just establish one thing to start with. Wherever anybody sits on these debates, I'm sure you would distance yourself from the tone of what was written on the side of that house.
Absolutely. I mean, we do not support vandalism. We don't support graffiti. We do not support anti-social behaviour. It's not a way forward for us in this town. And it's never been known, I have to say. I've lived here for 22 years and I've never seen it like that at all.
However, that aside, we can see the anger and the understandable concern about suddenly in a very small place, I think you've got a population of about 6,500, 7,000, in a small town, beautiful part of the country, to suddenly be told that there's going to be potentially 40, 50 new residents, of which people know nothing about their backgrounds or anything like that. That is understandable concern, right?
Correct. We haven't been officially told. We've found out by residents asking the developers when they were working on the properties, what were they doing? And that's how they found out that they were destined for HMO. So as a council, and it's a small council, we did some investigating, some research. I think Millom deserves better treatment. We do need clarity. We do need to know what plans there are, what strategies people are looking at for introducing asylum seekers, if that is the case. But as you quite rightly said, we are short on social housing. We have 110 families waiting to rent in Millom.
So hang on, so you're the Mayor of Millom. Nobody told you that somehow the Home Office had purchased, rented, commandeered? They'd got hold of half a dozen 8 houses in order to turn it into accommodation. How do they do that, firstly? And how do they do that without telling you?
I presume it's Serco who asked the developers to purchase very cheap properties and start working on them. That's all I can assume. I don't know. We've not been told anything.
And it's extraordinary. Sorry to interject, Simone, but just on that point, I mean, it is extraordinary that the local administration would not be consulted on what is, in any part of the country, a contentious issue, if nothing else, but just to factor in is also a housing issue that affects local residents of your neck of the woods. I mean, it's breathtaking that you wouldn't know about this.
Well, I don't know if it's breathtaking, but that's the way it actually happened. I mean, Millom is quite an isolated town. The infrastructure is quite poor. To travel to the nearest town, it takes a good 3/4 of an hour. We don't have regular bus services. Train services are spasmodic, to say the least. So I can understand why the community got angry, because they just didn't know what HMOs was all about. Nobody has been to us and explained what HMOs were for or are for.
Yeah. And have you attempted to contact the Home Office or Serco or anyone else to find out what the heck is going on?
As a council, we have written to Serco. We've had no reply. We've written to our Cumberland Council, and they've responded with reasons for why HMOs were going to be placed in Millom. We've also contacted our local MP, Trudy Harrison, who is able to communicate with the government, as we can't. As a small council, we've managed to obtain some of the developers' names and have written to them, of which 3 have actually pulled out when we've explained why we thought Millom was not suitable for asylum seekers.
Did you get a response from Trudy Harrison, the local MP? Because we certainly didn't get one.
Yes, Well, we met with Trudy Harrison the first week when everything started to unfold, when we started to see vandalism occurring and graffiti occurring. And we are, in fact, having a public meeting tomorrow night. And I think Trudy Harrison will be attending that meeting in the town.
And that would be right and fair that she does, of course. The Home Office say, and we did get a response from them, and I'm sure you'll be familiar with the usual line, but essentially they say they have a statutory duty to provide safe and secure housing for asylum seekers. They're continuing to work closely with local authorities, including Millom. Now, that must come as news to you because you've had no close work with the Home Office, from what I can gather.
That has come as big news to Millom Town Council. However, I mean, they may have communicated with Cumberland Authority, who is
that's the county council, right?
Authority. Yeah.
So tomorrow you have a meeting.
I do think.
Sorry, do carry on, Simone. I interjected.
But I do think the town itself deserves better treatment. And it's not just for Millom, but it's for all the way around the country, which is going to affect quite a few.
Well, this was, of course, part of the government's grand plan to say, no, we don't put people in very expensive hotels. We've got a better system. And, of course, you are what looks like, part of that alleged better system, which was just to find lots of maybe fairly quiet places where we can, secretly put 50 people there, 50 people there. That appears to be the response to remove asylum seekers from hotels.
Possibly, but I think people need to be clear. They need to be open with us and transparent, not just let it happen and think nobody's going to question it.
Do you sense, Simone, that maybe you guys have become a bit of a guinea pig for this new initiative of the government of getting people out of hotels and into homes?
Maybe. I don't know. This is the first time Millom has heard of asylum seekers coming to the town. If we are guinea pigs, then I think we should have been consulted first and foremost.
Yeah.
People should have come and had a look at our infrastructure to see if it was appropriate.
And I don't think anybody, regardless of political persuasion or hue, would in any shape or form disagree with that. I mean, that's just a very obvious, intelligent, logical thing to say. Listen, we wish you luck at the meeting. Let's keep in touch. Simone, thank you. Councillor Simone Faulkner, who is the mayor of Millom, referenced that exextraordinary story
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure. Let's bring in Dr. Mike Jones, who's the Executive Director of Migration Watch UK. We're all kind of scratching our heads on this one, Mike. I'm assuming this isn't completely new news to you. But it's certainly interesting to see a sort of a live version of what the government are planning and the kind of chaos that it's likely to cause.
Yes, the asylum policy has been de-democratised. So, power and responsibility are misaligned. The Home Office is responsible for immigration policy, but they have very little power to deport people. So they're scrambling around trying to, accommodate these people. And obviously it's illegal to allow an asylum seeker to be destitute. Now, if you look at the cost of housing asylum seekers in accommodation, that's risen to, 8 million a day. The cost of the asylum system as a whole is around 4 billion a year. Britain needs around 6 million new homes over the next 15 years to keep up with immigration population growth. A 1% increase in population due to immigration raises house prices by 1%. So this is a complete, failure in government policy. It's a housing crisis, and it shows the kind of systemic failures that are there in British politics.
Indeed. And, if ever there was an example of, and I don't know whether this is ineptitude, desperation, whatever you want to call it, the idea that the Home Office, who are clearly behind this plan to commandeer 8 homes in Millom, the idea that they don't have to tell the local authority it's beyond belief that would be the case.
Of course it is. I mean, the whole policy is in chaos. It's been de-democratized. And obviously, local authorities and local communities have to be shoved to one side for the government to actually fulfill its legal obligations. I mean, the only way to solve this is if the government can actually deport people, which it can't. So it's scrambling around trying to force non-citizens onto local communities, and obviously that has a knock-on effect on the housing market, on social housing, as Councillor Faulkner pointed out.
Yeah.
And it, sort of short circuits the democratic process and the consultation process that would normally go on there.
Something I bang on about, perhaps way too much, Mike, but I don't think it gets enough airtime in the debate about asylum, is that of cultural assimilation. I think that is right at the top of any intelligent list when having this discussion, but it's almost relegated as a kind of almost any more business type moment, when in fact I think it should be front and centre of this. If suddenly 40, 50 people are going to turn up in a very small town, in a little cul-de-sac somewhere, I think people have the right to know who they are, where they come from, their backstory. I think they have a right to be concerned if they feel that cultural assimilation is hardly something that's likely to happen anytime soon. Being somebody who believes that to be a key part of this story, I don't think we should apologise for looking to assimilate people who come to our country. It should almost be a requirement, but we can see the problems, but they are huge. The argument, as you well know, Mike, is often quite difficult to have without somebody shouting horrendous things at you and telling you must be a racist if you've got a problem with any of this.
Yeah, I think the national security element of it is absolutely essential. Obviously, talking heads, political commentators focus on the economic aspect of it. But you've got to remember, the lion's share of the people arriving via the channel are male, they're young, most of them are unaccompanied. And this goes against traditional refugee flows. Traditional refugee flows are a mixed multitude.
Yeah.
People travel with their families, their wives, their kids, their grandparents, and so on. But these are mostly young men, and we don't know who they are.
Good point.
Because they destroyed their documents. And many of these people come from countries
Yep.
That have in the past posed a security threat to the UK. So, yeah, it's a huge concern.
Massively so. Listen, Mike, thank you. Appreciate your time. Dr. Mike Jones from Migration Watch with us here on talkTV.